Akira Toriyama. The name itself brings up images of incredible energy, unforgettable characters, and stories that defined a generation. But what if I told you that underneath all that chaos and creativity, the real engine was something else entirely? Something like pure, cold rationality.
And that right there, that quote, nails the whole mystery of his work. It's so simple, anyone can pick it up and love it. And yet, trying to actually replicate what he did, it's next to impossible. So why? What was the secret sauce? To figure that out, we can't just look at Dragon Ball. We have to go back further. Before the manga, before everything. We have to look at his very first job, a job that had zero to do with telling stories, but had everything to do with forging his legendary style.
That's right. Our first stop, forged in commercial design. This is basically the source code of his entire style. Because before he was a manga god, Toriyama was a commercial designer. And that time he spent in the world of advertising, well, that's where it all began.
Think about it. Working at an ad agency taught him a set of ruthlessly practical rules. This wasn't about some lofty artistic vision. No, this was about getting a message across clearly and quickly under pressure. It was all about logic, clarity, and, above all, efficiency.
And his whole training really came down to these three core rules. Number one, convey your intent fast. No messing around. Number two, create resilient lines. Lines that were clean and strong, so they could survive edits and printing. And number three, make art that's easy to reproduce. Speed, clarity, efficiency. That became his mantra, the DNA for everything that came next.
Okay, so let's see how this plays out in his first mega hit, Dr. Slump. Because what he did here was, well, it was kind of bizarre, but absolutely brilliant. He took those super practical design rules and created this paradox that just made the series explode. And you can see that paradox perfectly right here. On one side, you have the art. I mean, look at it. The machines, the vehicles, the backgrounds, they're drawn with this insane, almost engineering-level detail. And what did he use all that incredible skill for? Well, that's the other side, the story, which was just simple, completely pointless, throwaway gags. The contrast is just hilarious.
So you see, the humor wasn't just in the jokes themselves. The real genius was the imbalance. It was this magic formula. You take these super cute, endearing, rounded characters, you drop them into a world filled with hyper-realistic, precise machinery, and then you have them do basically nothing of consequence in these little self-contained stories. That clash is what made it so new and so funny.
And this, of course, brings us to the big one, Dragon Ball. Now, the most important thing to understand about Dragon Ball is that it wasn't one thing. It was in a constant state of evolution. It was a masterclass in simplification, all driven by the brutal, relentless pressure of a weekly manga schedule. You can really break it down into three phases. It starts out in that early phase as a fun adventure with lots of gags, very much in the spirit of Dr. Slump. Then you hit the middle phase with the tournaments, which gives the series structure and puts all the focus on the fights. And finally, you get to the late phase where the scale becomes cosmic, but the actual plot structure gets radically simpler.
And this quote just says it all. To survive that weekly grind, Toriyama started cutting anything that took too much time. He swapped out complicated explanations for pure visual impact. He focused on strength you can see. You didn't need a wall of text to tell you a character was strong. You could just see it in the way they shattered a mountain with a single punch.
And this whole drive to simplify, it wasn't just a survival tactic, it became his core philosophy. It was all about working smarter, not harder. This applied to his art, his stories, and his whole career. He was on a mission to get the absolute maximum effect from the minimum possible effort. He actually built a whole method around this idea of reduction. Unlike his peers, he kept his team of assistants incredibly small. If a plot point or explanation got too annoying, he'd just drop it. Got too many characters to draw, he'd find a way to cut them. Over time, his line work got simpler. He even removed himself from the equation by avoiding interviews, just letting the work speak for itself. Now, a lot of people think his editor, Toriyama, was the one forcing all these changes on him. But the reality is so much more interesting. Toriyama was playing chess, not checkers. He cleverly used his editor's demands, "We need a new villain, raise the stakes," as the perfect excuse to justify his own desire to simplify, to cut things out, and to make his life easier. It was a perfectly complementary partnership.
So what's the end result of all this? Of this incredibly rational, efficient, almost minimalist approach to creating one of the biggest stories on Earth? What's his real, lasting legacy?
Here's the key takeaway. His greatest impact wasn't just inspiring a bunch of artists to copy his stories. No, what he did was much bigger. He gave the entire next generation of creators a brand new technical language, a new way to draw action manga. It was like he handed them a toolkit. Inside, you had the secrets to dynamic, jaw-dropping double-page spreads. You had the blueprints for drawing fights with crystal-clear 3D spatial awareness. And most importantly, you learned how to do it all with an extremely low cognitive load for the reader. It's just easy to read. This is the language that titans like Eiichiro Oda of One Piece and Masashi Kishimoto of Naruto learned to speak fluently.
So in the end, his genius wasn't some kind of magic. It was a system. It was built on pure rationality, on adaptation, and on finding that perfect sweet spot where reducing his own workload somehow created the biggest possible impact for the reader.
And that leaves us with one final fascinating thought. We celebrate him for Goku, for Arale, for the epic sagas. But what if his most enduring creation, the thing that truly changed the world of manga forever, wasn't a character or a story, but a revolutionary, rational method for making them?